Welcome back to Beyond Boxes, where I talk about labels and identity. One of the inspirations for creating this channel was talking to a friend about feeling caught between categories, not fitting the boxes dictated by society, always having to tick other on forms. Like me, she's a multi-ethnic, queer, bi/pansexual, polyamorous, invisibly disabled woman. For definitions of those terms, check out my intro video. And she used the term Inbetweeness, which really stayed with me. What are some ways you feel caught between categories? Let me know in the comments below how you go beyond boxes. I know a lot of bisexual people, myself included, feel this way. And there are those who don't identify with binary genders. The way I feel Inbetweeness most strongly is being multi-ethnic. I'm very aware of my light skin privilege, but I also feel like I experience a lot of the discriminations of being non-white, but little of the solidarity of belonging to a specific ethnic group. I've also spoken to black people who don't feel black enough, men who don't feel masculine enough, queer people who don't feel queer enough, and one person who described themselves as too queer to be straight and too straight to be queer. Do any of these examples resonate for you? Tell me your stories. I think there are two main ways people experience Inbetweeness. The first is what I'm calling systemic Inbetweeness, when we're part of a minority caught between two groups, one a majority and one a recognized minority, like being bisexual, non-binary or multi-ethnic, caught between a majority like straight, cis, white, and a recognized minority like gay, trans, black. And we can feel othered by both the majority and the minority group. The second type of Inbetweeness is what I call personal Inbetweeness or internalized othering. It's when, in theory, you fit in society's boxes, but you feel like you don't. Such as black people not feeling black enough, men not feeling masculine enough, queer people not feeling queer enough. Of course, it's possible to experience both. I think systemic Inbetweeness is almost always accompanied by internalized othering, at least for me personally. It's important to recognize the difference. For example, a group of us, mostly female except for two cis white men, were talking about feminism and sexism. At some point, one of the guys raised the point that patriarchy is bad for men too, which is very true, FYI. The conversation then became led by the two men talking about their struggles in our current society because they didn't feel particularly masculine and therefore didn't feel comfortable in predominantly male and masculine circles, but equally felt othered by predominantly female communities. If society depicts men as perpetrators and women as victims, they felt they identified more with a women's experience, having themselves been victimized and bullied by other men, and therefore being fearful of men. Not all men, of course, as they kept pointing out, being men themselves. This feeling of being more closely identified with a female experience than the male one in terms of victimhood for certain cis men was an experience of personal Inbetweeness I had never previously considered. It's really important to recognize the role of power, privilege, and intersectionality, which I'll do a whole video on at some point soon. When I'm talking with other women about our experiences of sexism, a systemic issue, it can be so frustrating if a man responds, "Not all men, not me," because they're feeling personally attacked. It's kind of like me being in a group of black people, talking about racism and the struggles of living in a predominantly white world. And instead of being understanding, compassionate, I hear your pain, I can relate to some degree, but my experiences are different because I have more privilege. If instead of saying things like that, I interrupted with, "Not all white people, I'm half white and I don't do that," guess what? Probably no one would have thought of me as racist until I said that. The issue with the "not all men" response is that most of the time when women are talking about sexism or feminism, they're usually talking about a systemic issue and possibly using personal experiences to demonstrate that. And when a man responds, "Not all men, not me," he's responding from a personal standpoint. And so it creates conflict because both parties are talking about two completely different things. It's kind of like a time a while back when my housemate went to the supermarket and asked me if I needed anything. I asked if she could pick me up some clothes, the spice. She misheard and thought I asked for some clothes, the things you wear. She responded, "The supermarket doesn't sell clothes." I was like, "How do you know they don't sell clothes? Have you checked down every aisle?" She was like, "I don't need to check down every aisle to know they don't sell clothes." And I was insisting that I bought some the last time I was there, so they definitely do sell clothes. We both felt like the other was being ridiculous and stubborn, and the more it went on, the more frustrated and angry we each got. Because it's true, you don't need to look down every aisle of a supermarket to know whether or not it sells clothes. And it's equally true that this supermarket did sell clothes. We were both right, we were just talking about different things. Eventually we understood the misunderstanding and it's a story we laugh about now, but it just shows how easy it is to get into conflict with someone when both parties are talking about different things without realizing it. And that so often happens around topics of gender, race, and sexuality. Coming back to Inbetweeness, the question is, what can we do about it? It's not nice feeling like we don't belong. First off, I think talking really helps, which is why I'm doing this video. The advantages of talking and listening is that we might find other people with with similar experiences. A few weeks ago, I went to my first ever Cutie Pock event, queer, trans and intersex people of colour. Whilst there were people of all different ethnic backgrounds, we all worked in, lived in or grew up in predominantly white environments. So we all shared a feeling of not belonging, not fitting in. Plus we were all queer, a lot of us bi, and many non-binary or gender neutral people there. So a lot of in-betweenness. I'll do a video soon on the range of genders. Talking to people, finding others with similar or shared experiences, and being aware of the dynamics of power, privilege and intersectionality. That's how I navigate my experiences of in-betweenness. I wanted to share my experiences to raise awareness, because there is so much societal and internalized rejection and othering happening, creating these feelings of not fitting in when so many of us share the same feelings. And by talking about it, we can realize that we're not alone and normalize these feelings. Maybe we should make In-Betweeness a new label. What do you think? Good idea? Terrible idea? Is it a label you like the sound of? Or is the problem that there are already too many labels and that's what's dividing us? I'd love to know your thoughts, so let me know in the comments, or you can tag me on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, leave a comment and subscribe.